We are concerned that the same way that he was engaging in sending photos of his penis to this 13 or 15-year-old girl and attempting to pay her for sex, or attempting to gift her items and also ask for sex, we are concerned that he may have other clients that are underage that unfortunately may be subjected to the same kind of behavior by this
I
defendant.
understand. Okay.
A hairstylist to the stars is in really hot water after Miami police say they caught him in a sting. They claim he'd not only been soliciting a teenage client for sex, but also bombarding her with explicit photos. We've got our hands on the probable cause affidavit that lays out the kind of messages he was allegedly sending this teen girl and what he brought with him to what he thought was a meetup with her, but was actually an undercover operation. And the sheriff behind a task force that targets predators joins us to give us some unique insight. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Okay, we got to talk about 37-year-old Ryan Thomas Pearl. He has made quite a name for himself in the world of celebrity and fashion. He has styled the hair of some of today's biggest stars: Hailey Bieber, Sophie Turner, Halsey. NBC Miami reports that Pearl worked out of Olin's salon in Miami as well as New York City. So he's a big deal. He's a big deal. And according to a post on his Facebook page on July 16th, Pearl had been selected as an artistic ambassador for Redken. This is a very well-known beauty brand. Well, I'll tell you, that ambassadorship likely in danger now as Pearl faces reportedly 6 charges in Miami-Dade County, Florida, all connected to alleged solicitation of an underage girl for sex. Those reported charges are use of a computer to seduce, solicit, or lure a child to engage in sexual conduct, traveling to meet a minor for the purpose of sexual contact, 2 counts of electronic transmission of material that's harmful to minors, possession of cocaine, and contributing to the delinquency of a child. Now, all except the last charge are felonies in Florida. This is very serious. Now, according to an arrest affidavit that was filed with the court, the alleged victim in this case is a 15-year-old female who is a client of Pearl's. Apparently met him when he first styled her hair at age 13. And after getting a report about inappropriate behavior between the alleged victim and Pearl, authorities say they were able to use the teen's social media accounts to trick him into a meetup. Lot to get into here, and as we go through each section of this, including this sting operation, who better to talk about this than we're bringing back onto Sidebar Sheriff Chris Swanson of Genesee County, Michigan, leader of a task force that goes after alleged predators. Chris, thank you so much for taking the time. It's good to see you.
Always, brother.
So I got to ask you, I want to take your pulse on this. You have a hairstylist. It's an interesting position because it allows him, assuming these allegations are true, to get up close and personal with people of all different ages, makes them feel comfortable, and maybe they're not being supervised directly by a parent. Usually, look, it's a benign profession, but you take these allegations, it's true, it is one of those professions where it does put people in contact with children. What should we be thinking about that?
Well, what makes this completely different than most cases is the word celebrity. The fact that he had her in a confined space since she was 13, this is what predators do. They identify a victim, they identify their prey, and then they start building that trust. And in this case, it took 2 years. But what you see is a pattern that is repeated across the board when it comes to predator and prey. But that celebrity part, Jesse, is unique because many times that word force and coercion, that's how this person started out, is coercing this individual to think maybe he used the celebrity status of his position. I can help you. I can make you beautiful. I don't know what the chats or what his mindset was, but I guarantee he probably used his celebrity status to lure her in more than other predators would. And in this case, it's because of the people that are his clients.
Hey, so I know many of you out there might be true crime fans, but is anyone in a business of some kind too? If so, let me ask you something. How much time do you think your business team is spending just in spreadsheets, chasing down receipts, trying to make sense of endless rows of bank statements? Yeah, probably too much, but that is where Odoo Accounting steps in. So Odoo gives users a clean, modern accounting dashboard that shows you exactly what you need. Your bank balances, your cash flow, your vendor bills, your customer invoices, all in one place. It's easy to use, it's easy to navigate, and for anyone managing their business accounting, It's invaluable. You want to know why Odoo is going to give your business a cutting edge? Well, Odoo uses smart AI with a 98% recognition rate to automatically generate invoices and vendor bills. So all you have to do is just review and validate. That's it. Their bank reconciliation, next level. Odoo connects with over 28,000 banks to automatically match your transactions with your financial records to give you pinpoint accuracy. There's no more guesswork. Need reports? Guess what? Odoo's got everything from your balance sheet to your cash flow statements, professionally formatted, instantly accessible. So if you've been doing all this accounting work manually, you can stop right now. Automate invoices, vendor bills, accounting workflow with Odoo today. Get a free 15-day trial today at odoo.com/sidebaraccounting. Let me focus on that for a second, because the celebrity aspect is interesting. And assuming these allegations are true for the moment, okay? If someone could let their guard down and be like, wow, someone is renowned in the industry, works with these celebrities, they can be trusted. There's one thing to say, yeah, you use celebrity to maybe say, I can get you this, I can just get you that. But, a renowned figure in the industry, does that build up a level of trust? Would a younger person or any kind of alleged victim say, I would never in a million years think someone like that would engage in anything like this? That's a factor, right?
That absolutely is a factor. I look at here in Michigan, the Larry Nassar case in Michigan State.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the Sandusky case, back in Penn State. I mean, a lot of these celebrities, obviously, P. Diddy and those celebrities that can take their position many times, and they lure people in because of that celebrity status.
So he's innocent until proven guilty. That's clear. But we got to get into some of the details from this police affidavit. For purposes of the conversation, we're talking about what this could mean. So we're not going to be, we won't be talking about all of it, as some of the information is really graphic, but you're going to get the idea. So here's what it says, quote, on Saturday, July 26, 2025, the victim's mother responded to the police department to report inappropriate conversation between her 15-year-old daughter and the defendant via social media platforms. The witness was interviewed and explained to detectives while she was home on Sunday at approximately 20:42 hours, she received 2 Apple Wallet notifications. The notifications were for 2 separate transaction deposits from a phone number sent directly to her daughter's account. She then asked her daughter who sent the money, and her daughter told her it was from the hairstylist. Let's just stop right there, Chris. Important. This is strange, right? In the sense, not strange. I guess this is a difficult balance between parents and their children. You want to maybe know what's going on in their social media, maybe want to have access to their bank accounts, their financial accounts. I know there's a level of independence, but oversight and seeing what they're doing, particularly in a digital age, that's a very important balance. And what do you advise parents to do?
Your kid's business is your business. The brain doesn't even fully develop to age 25. That's why we have that phrase, survive till you're 25. This is a 15-year-old that, thank God, the mom was the watchdog on watching these transactions and dug deeper. I agree. There's a point where you want to give independence to your kids, but that independence has to come with some accountability and protection. And if it wasn't for that mom, I'm convinced this act would have taken place, because she stopped it at the most critical time, the exchange of money. And that money was a transaction that was going to lead to the assault.
Well, from there, the girl's mother discovered these alleged inappropriate messages between her daughter and this hairstylist. According to the affidavit, the teen and Pearl spoke over text, TikTok, Snapchat. Social media, right, Chris, is a tool that has now morphed. It used to be online chat rooms, but now you have all these different platforms. Probably hard to monitor everything, but it is a tool to get close to minors. How dangerous is it?
Well, you have to look at apps that are now the vehicle for communication. That's usually what I call the knock on the door. Snapchat. Everybody has Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok. That's the knock on the door to take them to a chat room or a text message conversation, which is offline. And a lot of times these predators do that because they want to isolate them, which is part of the grooming tactic. Isolate them, put them in a corner, have one-on-one conversations, and that's where it leads into, ultimately, the meets.
And by the way, going back to this Apple Wallet account, we don't know the amount that Pearl is alleged to have sent this teen, but money can be a great motivator for people of any age, but for a teenager especially, something to keep in mind. So the girl's mom reported everything to the police right away, and then they set up a sting operation. So the goal was to try to lure Pearl into meeting up with this girl. The thing about that was, it was actually an investigator who was messaging with him. So the affidavit includes some of the messages between them, which quickly turned graphic. But I do want to point out something that we found interesting. It appears in the messages that Pearl says he's 28. In real life, he's 37. Now, Chris, something you see in these situations, an adult not necessarily claiming they're also underage, but saying they're younger, maybe to make that age gap seem not as drastic, maybe to let defenses down, maybe make an alleged victim more comfortable. Again, these allegations, that's what they are. He's innocent until proven guilty, but for purposes of the conversation, what do you think?
That's premeditated. You know, these are rationalizations that many times predators use to try to reduce the anxiety that their victims have. And so if you're talking a 37-year-old versus a 15-year-old, which he knew based on the information that I too have, that she said, meaning the police, you know, I'm only 15. So you see this kind of bringing down the age gap to make it, quote, more normal. That was all premeditated. There's no question. They try to do that to not only help the victim, but sometimes it's rationalization in their own mind. And that's why this predator-prey relationship is so important to digest and to break apart, just like we're doing right now, for others to learn from.
So the girl's mother recently spoke anonymously with NBC6 saying, quote, I was upset. I was like sick in my stomach. I was so disappointed, you know, like how could this happen to my daughter? But I know it happens every day. What is a 37-year-old man doing asking a 15-year-old girl, what size of shoe are you? I want to make you happy. You're pretty. Let's keep this between you and me. As soon as I saw that, I knew his intention was to take advantage of my daughter. Now, here are some of the messages that Pearl allegedly sent, again, to this 15-year-old who was actually, remember, an undercover officer. Again, we can't include all of them. They're very, very explicit, but here are just a few. You're mad, cool, and fun to talk to. Just didn't know if you cared that I said because I'm older. It's not that easy to get pregnant like that. Maybe you will send me more selfies now? Okay, I'll bring you money too, babe, so you have money to do stuff with your friends. According to Miami police, Pearl also allegedly sent a photo of himself wearing swimming trunks and then images of his naked body. Chris, your reaction?
You know, you mentioned the shoe size, you mentioned money, be with your friends. That's all grooming. So any parent out there that sees a message, even if it's not as graphic as what you just explained, when you see those communications to an underage kid, red flag, because they're trying to break down those defenses. They're trying to bring them in a position where you're giving them gifts and rewards. That's all part of filling a need in the grooming algorithm. And when he takes it to the next step by exchanging pictures, again, it breaks down the defenses. You're talking a 15-year-old and a 37-year-old. He knows exactly what he's doing. And by sending photos, now she's probably thinking, or any victim, well, if they sent this, then I should send something back. It's all part of that psychological dominance. Well, I sent you pictures, you send me pictures. And that's where the child pornography comes in, with underage photos being sent back and forth and being held on phones. This is all part of the process. And I don't know the background of Pearl, but I can tell you, this is probably not his first interaction or first communication to somebody underage.
Well, here's the thing. Look, we don't know that for sure, but I hear exactly what you're saying. I will tell you, speaking to Chris Hansen, when you ultimately confront these suspects, automatically, many times it's, well, that's not what I was intending in the conversation. That's not what I meant. And maybe that's even a defense that they go with at trial if it goes to trial. These messages are being misconstrued. I find it difficult based on these messages, unless they say someone else was sending them or there was, some issue in the way they were retrieved, which I think are uphill arguments. It's very difficult to suggest there was a benign reason for this because, look, it's not illegal for a 37-year-old to have a conversation with a 15-year-old, but the contents of it and the actions that are taken are quite significant. How do you get past that? How do you say this is what has crossed the line? This is not innocent. This is not benign when you're having these conversations with the suspects?
Well, I can tell you, in the last 7.5 years, when we have been working Ghost, we started in 2018, have arrested 240 predators plus. We've not had a single case that we've lost because we found out that the person was actually there benevolently to save someone's life. It's a rationalization. It's a defense mode. And then when you confront them with the chats, you confront them with their own words, their photos, then that defense is over. But I think the key is the crossover. It's not uncommon for our chatters to chat 100, 200 people in a night. And maybe some of them will go down even past the age where they've been told that they're 13, 14, or 15. And they chat a little bit more and then they flake out. But it's the ones that do not stop. And in this particular case, the agency that chatted on behalf of the victim did a phenomenal job by reiterating, you know, I'm only 15. You know, I'm only 15. Like, that is the crossover. And so when he went there, and of course he had, you know, condoms, he had cocaine, that is commitment. And when that happens, there's no crossing back to, I was just testing the waters. There's a fine line, but when they are taking actions, that's when they're what we call committed to the crime. And that's when the arrest and the charges stick.
Let's talk about that, because the court paperwork also included messages that the officer had sent to Pearl, pretending again to be this 15-year-old. Messages like, I am very shy, please don't. Do you care that I'm 15? No, sorry, I'm just new to this, please don't get mad. And this allegedly shows that Pearl knows he's talking to a minor and being extremely sexually graphic. The affidavit states the conversation continued regarding plans to meet the victim on the following day for the purpose of sexual activities with the use of condoms. On Wednesday, July 30th, 2025, during an undercover operation, the defendant drove to the incident location provided by the undercover detective with the intent to pick up the victim to engage in sexual activities. The defendant further purchased electronic cigarettes, commonly known as vapes, for the victim's personal use. At approximately 18:45 hours, the defendant arrived at the incident location driving a 2021 light blue Mercedes-Benz S580. Records check revealed the vehicle is registered to the defendant. A felony stop was conducted on the vehicle by the City of Miami Tactical Robbery Unit. The defendant was identified as the driver and sole occupant of the vehicle. He was given verbal commands to exit the vehicle and was taken into custody. Okay, so first of all, Chris, let's talk about the conversations. You will hear a defense attorney say this was entrapment, right? That it was the conversations, the proactive messages from the undercover agent posing as the 15-year-old to the suspect, that this isn't fair. Walk us through what investigators are taught about the questions or the comments they pose to the suspects. What is that line? Why is it that, how do you avoid an entrapment kind of defense?
Well, I can tell you, entrapment is probably the most used defense that any attorney in the United States is going to use to try to get their client off. It was entrapment. Let me explain. Entrapment is very easy to understand. If I wanted to do something to get you, Jesse, I would focus just on you, I would target you, and I would try to draw you in. That's entrapment. If I just throw out the bait, if I give people exits and let them know the ages, in this case, that investigator did a phenomenal job by saying, you know, I'm only 15. I'm new to this. Can you help me? Many times we'll tell our predators to go stop and get a particular drink at a party store, and they do that and bring the drink to the location. That shows intent. So if the entrapment defense is used, but we completely disprove that by saying anybody could have joined this conversation or left the conversation, that's not entrapment. But we give outs, and it only bolsters our case. And that's why a majority of these cases plead, because a defense attorney has no defense. When somebody shows up in a 2021 Mercedes and they have vapes, and without even seeing the conversation, maybe the detective even said, hey, bring me some vapes. And so he went and got the particular vapes for that victim. This is all part of the investigation. They did a phenomenal job. This is not entrapment. It's a good criminal case.
And if the suspect says, hey, are you an undercover officer? Are you really 15? You can go with that conversation, because in a way it goes to consciousness of guilt. The fact that they're asking those questions shows what they're doing is wrong. So what's the limit in terms of what truthful comments or maybe misleading comments you can give to the suspect?
It's undercover.
Right.
It's an investigation. And law enforcement is not only protected from doing these undercover investigations, but you play a role in order to protect the community and to solve crimes. And in this particular case, yes, they're talking to law enforcement. There's no obligation for them to say, by the way, I'm law enforcement, we're pretending to be a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
That's part of what undercover operators do, whether it's narcotic world, human trafficking world, whether it's, stolen vehicles. This is part of what law enforcement does in order to find people that are trying to hurt our community, in this case, a young child.
And it helps to prove intent, which is key in these cases. So now you have this takedown. What are these takedowns like? I mean, these are people now, the spotlight is on them. I wonder if they automatically know what is going on. Do they tend to resist? What is the danger? What are the protocols in place when now you have to take down the suspect?
Yeah, that's a great question for your audience. You know, by the time that vehicle rolls up on the scene that has already been identified in the chat and confirmed, that goes back to your word intent. They knew exactly where they're going, what they were doing, what they were bringing. When that vehicle arrives, there's an outer perimeter that already has identified they're on the way. And different agencies have different perimeters, but there's undercover operators and surveillance teams that are watching, you know, what vehicle this person probably drives. They saw it roll in the parking lot. And when he got to that particular spot, they may even said, pull into the second, driveway left of whatever gas station, whatever the location was. As soon as that happens, many times there's a tactical advantage already set up. So the MARC units can come up and make the arrest. There's no misunderstanding that when that individual looks in the side view mirror, the rear view mirror, and they see law enforcement, that the gig is up. And many times they freeze. They don't know what to do. They've realized that for whether it's days, weeks, or months prior to this, that they've been building this fantasy up and they have now committed and they know that the world is about to end. So to answer your question, few resist, but when they do resist, they'll take off. They are running scared, and that's where the outer perimeter comes in, and we contain the scene and we arrest them. But the thing is during these times, we want to build rapport because we want to ultimately solicit a confession from this individual. Even though we have all the chats, we have all the software, we have everything that proves the case, there's very little that's better than a person actually saying what they did and why they did it. So a lot of times we're going hands-on, we're securing, patting down for weapons, and we're already starting to build the rapport. Is your name so-and-so? We got you covered. You're safe. We're going to take you out of here. What's your password to your phone? And boom, they put it out there. These are all things to try to de-escalate, but also to try to divert their attention from resisting to compliance.
No, that's a great point. And I know you also, searched the person and you searched the vehicle. So what happened here? Investigators say they searched Pearl's vehicle. They took several items as evidence. So Pearl reportedly had nearly $300 in cash in his pocket. 2 different iPhones were found in his car. And according to the affidavit, quote, on the driver's side floorboard, a small clear plastic baggie containing suspected pink cocaine, which was also collected. In the center console of the vehicle, an additional small clear plastic baggie containing suspected pink cocaine was collected. Now, we've talked about pink cocaine before here on Sidebar. It's a party drug, usually a mix of several different kinds of drugs, ketamine, cocaine, ecstasy, and police say Pearl had just over 10 grams in his possession. So Chris, that adds to this, right? The suspected drugs that were found.
Without a doubt. And it's not uncommon they'll bring alcohol or they'll even ask the victim, what do you like to party with? Sometimes they'll bring a bag of weed, but the 10 grams of pink cocaine is key. The other thing that's key that you said, 2 cell phones. Why would somebody have 2 cell phones? Because they have their normal phone that their people know and they use, and then many times they have a drop phone. And I'm just guessing where that conversation took place perhaps. But the 2 cell phones, the cocaine, the condoms, it's all part of that intent. It's all part of the crime itself. And every one of those variables play into why this individual was arrested, why they were charged, and ultimately why they were convicted, whether it be by a jury or a plea. This case is closed.
So going back to the affidavit, it says, quote, on the passenger seat of the vehicle in plain view, a white plastic bag was located, and inside there were 2 black and gold Magnum condoms and 1 lifestyle condom and 4 new blueberry vapes. Police say Pearl was read his rights, agreed to speak with them. NBC6 reports that Pearl admitted to buying a vape for the girl, asking her to be his girlfriend. He also allegedly admitted to sending her nude photos of himself, traveling to meet her. Chris, it's exactly like you said. How do you elicit more information? How do you elicit a confession? I know these are allegations at this point, but oh boy, wouldn't want to be his defense attorney unless they're going to try to argue police violated his rights in some sort of way.
And that's simply not the case, because obviously just hearing from what I researched before we are talking and then talking with you, this agency did a phenomenal job at walking through this case. Once the mom turned over the phone, they were able to do it without alerting the individual. You got two styles of communication. So that chatter had to learn how that 15-year-old had been communicating with Pearl and pick it up. So Pearl had no idea that another person, another mind is carrying on the conversation. But the flip side is that his dopamine drive to fulfill this fantasy was so strong that he probably overlooked some obvious signs that somebody else was actually chatting. And then it goes back to what you said in the front seat, you know, having a bag. That's probably a shopping bag that he went and picked up. And I'm just surmising on the way to this location have sex with a 15-year-old underage girl who he had met again when she was 13 as a client. So you have this work relationship. As you said before, the mom's probably sitting, 10 feet away, or maybe she went down the road. This individual isolated her, build the rapport, set up the trap, and then was ultimately going to fulfill his fantasy. And all those things that were in his vehicle, that's all part of the crime. It's all part of the investigation. And I'm convinced if they didn't stop it, and that was a 15-year-old, that this act would have been done. And with multiple condoms, who knows how many times.
So after his arrest on July 30th, Pearl was charged with those sex offenses that I mentioned. He was held until a bond hearing the next day, where he appeared before Judge Mindy Glazer.
Sir, can you afford to hire an attorney?
I'm not sure how much an attorney would cost.
Well, do you own your home?
No, I don't.
All right.
I don't believe he qualifies.
Okay. You don't qualify. Do you have the financial means to hire an attorney?
It would be hard because I work on commission based. So
Do you have any savings?
not much, no.
All right. I'll appoint the public defender's office for you for purposes of this first appearance hearing, subject to financial verification. So I
Thank
need a
you.
moment to review the arrest affidavit for probable cause. All right. I had a chance to review the arrest affidavit. So Ms. Baez, do you want to say anything?
Yes, Your Honor. Based on the four corners of the A form, the state would be requesting an extremely elevated bond. This is the concern that we are having with regards to the defendant, both for the safety of the victim in this case. This is someone he has known since she was 13 years old. She is now 15, so he's at least known her for 2 years, knows her travels, knows her whereabouts. So we are concerned for the safety of the community, specifically the victim. We would be requesting an elevated bond in the amount of $500,000 with a GPS total lockdown component. Your Honor, the state is also concerned that this defendant is in fact a flight risk. As Your Honor mentioned before, he is originally from New Jersey, and it appears he has clients all over the United States. So it's our concern, based on the information that we have, that he does travel to do the hair and the hairstylist for, I guess, A-list celebrities. So it's our concern that he has the means to travel outside of the state of Florida, and
He's going to travel to cut hair.
yes, Your Honor, in
Or
places.
style hair. So how is that a danger to the community?
Well, considering that his clients can range from apparently 13-year-olds to whatever age, we are concerned that the same way that he was engaging in sending photos of his penis to this 13 or 15-year-old girl and attempting to pay her for sex, or attempting to gift her items and also ask for sex, we are concerned that he may have other clients that are underage that unfortunately may be subjected to the same kind of behavior by this
I
defendant.
understand. Okay, thank you. Ms. Corey, did you want to say anything?
Judge, Mr. Pearl has no objection to only having adult clients. That's not an issue for him, Judge.
And the judge made sure that Pearl knew his bond was going to come with some conditions.
Sir, I'm entering a stay-away order from the 15-year-old child whose initials are AG. No contact with the alleged victim, either directly, indirectly, in person, in writing, by telephone, or through third parties. And no contact with the victim through social media or other electronic means. You must stay at least 500 feet away from the victim, her
Yes,
home,
sir.
school, and any place of employment at all times. Do you understand the stay-away order, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
No texting, email, TikTok, Instagram, or any Snapchat or anything else with this
Yes, Your Honor.
child. In fact, you should not have any unsupervised contact with any minor children. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
So apparently an attorney appeared virtually on behalf of the victim's family, spoke briefly, and then you have a public defender who was assigned to Pearl for this hearing, objected to a large bond amount for the defendant.
I see you, Mr. Santisteban, you're the victim's attorney. Did you care to say anything, sir?
Yes, Your Honor, good afternoon. I would echo Ms. Baez's concerns, and on behalf of my client, the victim, and her family, we would ask for the same level of bond and restrictions that Ms. Baez previously mentioned.
Okay. Ms. Cora, let me hear from you. There's an issue I don't know if there's any probable cause issues.
Can't do.
Judge, Mr. Pearl cannot afford a $500,000 bond. That's excessive. He has no prior record, Judge. He does work for a living. I would ask if you would just set a reasonable bond, Judge, standard bond for Mr. Pearl. You've already issued a stay away order. He will honor the stay away order. He has no minors living in the home with him, so that will not be an issue. He's agreed not to have any minor clients, Judge, and that way that will not be an issue.
All right. Did you have any probable cause argument?
Just with regard to the unauthorized alien, Judge.
Okay. With regard to count one, using a computer to solicit a child for engaging in sexual conduct, there's probable cause for that charge. It's a third-degree felony. That bond is 25. Actually, state wanted an elevated bond. From what I read here, I think you're right. But that's not going to be 500,000. That's excessive, and it's not. This is just the first appearance hearing. It's not. He hasn't been found guilty of anything, and he's presumed not guilty. So count one, I'll set it at $5,000. Count two, using a computer services for meeting a child. There's no enhancement for the unauthorized alien. So Ms. Baez, would that be a second-degree felony then? It drops down one?
No, I
Is
don't,
it
I don't think the unauthorized alien enhances it. So it's,
Yes, it
It
does.
would, it
It's-
would.
It's a second degree felony, Judge.
Thank you. Count two will be $7,500. Let me just make a note of my findings. Count three and four, there's probable cause for sending count three and four, there's probable cause for sending transmissions harmful to minors. And I'm going to set a bond on count three at $5,000 and count four at $5,000. Count five, possession of cocaine, there's probable cause for that. They found a bag of 2C, which is the pink cocaine, and that's $2,500. And then count six, contributing to the delinquency of contributing to the dependency of a minor. That will be $1,000 bond. That's a first-degree misdemeanor. So let me see, anything else? I'm not imposing house arrest, total lockdown. Sir, you've been warned. If you violate this court's order, if you contact the victim in any way, or you pick up a new law violation, you will get rearrested and you will be locked up in jail until the trial. Do you understand?
Absolutely, Your
All
Honor.
right.
Thank you.
Okay. Miss-
Your Honor,
Miss-
if I may, I guess the state's concern at this point is the possibility of him having other minor clients that are victims. Is Your Honor also, is it advising him or ordering him not to have any, clients come in, even with parents?
If there's a parent supervising him, he can do whatever he does for hairstyling with a parent who wants to utilize the services as long as they're present. He cannot be alone with any child under 18. He said already he will not have children as his clients. That's up to him. It's probably a wise move. But I mean, I don't know if there's an isolated incident or what, but it's certainly concerning facts. The facts alleged in this arrest affidavit are quite concerning. Stay away from the victim. You see the victim has an attorney here who I'm sure is going to do whatever he has to do to protect his client's rights in addition to the state. All right, we're done. Have a nice day. Thank you for coming in.
And in the end, Judge Glazer agreed that $500,000 was too high a bond, lowered it to $26,000 with those conditions that he stay away from the victim, not contact her in any way. But Chris, is that enough? How often do you see alleged predators trying to contact victims while they're out on bond, while the case is pending or is going to be progressing?
Well, thankfully, we don't have that as an epidemic. They are so terrified at this point. Many times they're caught in the system. their face and their case is put on public display like this. They want to go deep six and not even be seen. And don't forget, a bond is not set for punitive reasons. A bond in America is simply set for people to come back to the court case. It's a financial guarantee. But bonds are also seen as, many times, people on the outside, is this case taken serious by the courts? And obviously, the one who suggests a $500,000 bond, that's because they're standing up for their victim. And then the defense attorney and the judge will say, well, what are the likelihood of them coming back? He lives in the area, blah, 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 whatever the criteria was, 26,000. And people are going to be offended by that. I think that's a very low bond, especially his status. But the bottom line is only the courts, only the judges can answer to what bonds are set. We can object, we can give our input, but ultimately the court decides, and that's what you have to go with.
And talking about that, according to court records, Pearl apparently bonded out on August 1st. He's scheduled for an arraignment at the end of the month, and we will see which way this case goes. Chris Swanson, my gosh, thank you so much for coming on. You are terrific, my man. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Be safe.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.